tries to answer him, Daejang still won't understand, so it's okay if he doesn't say anything. Finally, he told him not to lose this runestone. Gailim made a strange sound, rubbed his finger at his temple and thought, then the runestone fell to the ground. Gailim reached for this stone and remembered the molten bar, which made him sweat all over and worry that the runestone would melt as well. Nothing happened to the runestone, and he let out a sigh of relief. He put the runestone into himself and turned his attention to the notebook with inscriptions, where it was written about the beta test of the leader raid and the bug report. The system window reports that this is summoning rune, item grade B, rechargeable item, can be copied, can be used after 24 hours of initial copy. The same type of stone is duplicated and passed to the target specified by the user. The caster can summon a target holding a cloned runestone in the desired location. Can be used as a walkie-talkie at any time. Currently, one copied runestone has been created. Daejang took out the stone from the chest and said that it has many functions. He needs to give it to the swordsman and squeakers too. Then he saw the necklace. This is a soul collector's necklace, growth type item, item rating E, strength and mana plus 500, agility plus 5. An artifact used by a legendary potion master who wore it at all times. After all the experiments he conducted, it turned red. This is one of his 5 most prized possessions. Bonus effect when worn set, regenerate 1 mana point per second. Daejang wondered, another soul collector's item? Is there a set? The type of growth, even the set, is very cool. He put a necklace around his neck. The game maniac goes crazy for items. The hedgehog lay on the ground nearby and scratched its side, saying that Daejang was easy to please. Daejang decided to check out the earrings as well. Soul collector's earrings, item class growth, current rating E-class 1991 out of 10,000. He looked thoughtfully at the system window and wondered, did he kill approximately 2,000 slimes in the Gailim dungeon? The necklace scores are the same as the earrings. Suddenly, one of the knights called out to Daejang and said that from now on he should walk around in this, handing him a cloak. Daejang asked why he needed Rob. The knight replied that he needed to hide his identity, after which Daejang asked again, does he need to hide himself? The knight handed him the paper and informed him that this was the king's decree, showing the royal seal on the letter. Daejang thought, orders from the king, huh? Is this part of the mission? The knight pointed out that he didn't get it directly from the king, but the royal seal is real. Their majesty must have recognized the raid leader's abilities. Another knight asked him to open it quickly. Daejang grabbed the letter and opened it. This email is intended for squad leader of the Order of the White Bear. He is expected in a village near the borders of the kingdom, so he must go there before starting the mission. Daejang peered at the letter and read that he knew its secret. Daejang started to think, what could this be about? What was his secret? Why is he acting like this and talking about a secret that Daejang doesn't even know about? Judging from the fact that the quest didn't appear for these guys, even though they are also NPCs, he guesses that it will work in a village near the border. One of the knights asks what His Majesty wants? Daejang pushed his hair back and replied that he had asked them to defend the borders with pride and honor, and also he had high hopes for them. The swordsmen were surprised to hear these words and said that they expected nothing less from the raid leader. Daejang suggested that they do an equipment check before they set off, but before that, he would give them names. At this time, Sang-Soo shouted to his soldiers to listen, that this is the very first dungeon that was discovered in Astrum. While everyone is still busy finding guild members to increase the success rate for the guild quest, they will practice working together as a team. Jelly My Fave said that there was no such dungeon in the beta, which other members agreed with. Another added that he definitely didn't remember seeing a dungeon of this type like this. Sang-Soo said that this means it's a dungeon that even Daejang hasn't cleared out until now. He said this in embarrassment and pulled out his sword, then shouted for everyone to follow him. Jelly My Fave thought that every time Sang-Soo opens his mouth, he always talks about Daejang and what he does. Sang-Soo rushed to run into the forest, and the players who joined the guild were standing on the edge of the forest and discussing whether joining this guild was a good decision. They'll be fine, won't they? Jelly My Fave said that they didn't need to worry, because if they just helped this guy, everything would go well. Sang-Soo ran out of the forest along with the flying rat monsters, shouting that it wasn't as easy as he thought. He asked them to be careful, suggesting that they catch the monsters first. Jelly My Fave shouts that this is his first battle after choosing a new role. First of all, they need to catch 3 mobs. The player plunged his shield into the ground in front of the monsters and the rats rushed at him, but he repelled them with his shield. The player was surprised and said that it hurt more than he thought. A girl from their guild said that the level of monsters is higher than it looks, to which Jelly, my fave, replied that then they just need to aim at one at a time. Sangsu ran away and shouted that he could kill 3 of them. He started attacking the monsters with a slash, a basic swordsman skill, technique of jumping and using your own weight when attacking. The greater the weight, the greater the damage. Now it will show them raid leader's secret move, Fist from Hell. After that attack, he thought about how cool he was. At this time, Daejong says that they have now finished preparing. Squeaker sat on his shoulder and nodded along. They opened a portal and found themselves in a city near a huge fortress. The knight replied that it was true. Another knight added that since there is a border here, there is no choice but to build high walls. Daejong knocked on the stone wall and said that the stone should be big and heavy. One of the knights replied that it is so heavy that it is ideal for strength training. He added that the workers who built the walls had very powerful muscles. Daejong said, so that's how they know they came here to do the same thing, right? His subordinates were at a loss. Why are they surprised? He will give them a task, so they need to accept it. They ask in surprise, is he serious? The system window tells you to hire workers to repair the walls. The cracks in the walls, which the border villagers are so proud of, disturb the villagers. We need to hire workers to repair the border of the kingdom of Arthur. Daejong laughed and said he was just joking, they can't relax. When they recruit workers, they will fix everything right away. The knights saluted him and replied that they understood everything, to which Daejong said that they could relax and began to move away from them. The knight asks, where is he? Daejong looked at the stone wall where the dent had formed, and thought that such a dent would not just happen, so he is going to walk with this magician guy. They continued together along the high stone wall, and Daejong thought that since the intimacy with the 2 swordsmen had reached the maximum level, he should focus on this guy. Daejong asked if he had ever been to the border village. The magician got excited and replied that this was his first time. Daejong said that he didn't look surprised when he saw the wall, so he assumed that the magician hadn't seen it before. The magician replied that when he was in magic school, they often used magic to look at the border. Daejong replied that he understood and asked how long did he study there. The magician replied that the training took place for about 10 years. Now he left the school for the first time. Suddenly, Daejong grabbed the magician's hat and lifted it up, after which he saw that it was not a guy at all, but a girl with blonde hair. He asked her who she is, to which she replied, what is he talking about? The system window reports that the magician feels uncomfortable. The proximity has decreased by 5 units. The current friendship is -5. Daejong pulled out his sword and asked if she wanted to say that a person who went out for the first time in 10 years could be so calm. He asked her to confess while there was a chance, and repeated his question, who is she? She took off her cloak and said that it was not for nothing that he had such a reputation. She had a polar bear badge with a crown on her chest, and she told him that there was no need to be so careful. She would like to ask him for cooperation. She is a polar bear knight. She is in a secret search party. She was tasked to find a traitor, so she joined the raid leader's group. After these words, she held out her hand to him and asked if he would help her. The system window reports that a quest related to the mission has been created. You need to find the traitor who hid in the border village. There is a traitor among the polar bear knights who discovered the strange tiger while investigating cracks in the walls, suspecting that there is an organized rebel force in the kingdom. We need to find the traitor by cooperating with a secret search team. Information about the magician will be updated. If he refuses, then he will become an enemy for the magician. Daejong thought, traitor? He grabbed her hand and agreed. The system window reports that his decision melted the heart of the sorceress. Affinity increased by 50 units, current friendship 45 units. She picked up the hoodie from the ground and asked if she should put it on again. He replied that she should put it on and return to patrol. He secretly glanced at her and thought that this girl seemed familiar to him. They started coming back and he asked her what clues there were about the traitor. She replied that after looking at the cracks, she could tell that it was a skill she had never seen before. She wanted to say something, but suddenly there was an explosion. After the explosion, monsters appeared that appeared right in front of the magician and Daejong, along with Squeaker. The magician girl says that the monster is not from here. She has never seen such monsters before. Daejong asks her if the cracks in the wall attracted them here. She began to conjure and replied that it looked like it. The monster let out a loud growl, and a huge purple OK grabbed him and started to squeeze his throat. A little earlier, the mage had said that after examining the cracks in the wall, She could tell that they were created with a skill they had no record of. She said it might be related to black magic. The monster began to growl, and a black haze appeared from its mouth, which filled the entire space. Daejong went on the attack and said that's who made the cracks in the wall. Daejong aimed his sword at the monster and pierced through his body. Squeaker at that time was behind Daejong. Daejong thought that the difficulty of the missions was picking up just when he wanted to relax. Squeaker got ready and the girl was surprised to see the flames coming from him. Suddenly, Squeaker and Daejong caught fire and decided to use as much force as possible. This is the raid leader merging skill and Squeaker. The mage looked at them in surprise. They attacked the monster together and flames began to appear from the Squeaker's mouth, which then poured onto the monster. The body of the monster was enveloped in flames, and the body of another monster was filled with flames and exploded. Squeaker skill, a fiery hedgehog, in which spikes of flame break out of fireballs with a certain duration. The magician stood in a daze as she watched what was happening. At this time, Sangsu wandered through the forest and left marks on the trees. He could not believe that he was once again disappointed. He wandered and thought about the dungeon rat den and why it was so hard to impress him. Jelly My Fave came up behind him and said that there weren't many trees left and offered to finish it quickly. Sangsu called him his dear squire and agreed with him. He pointed a finger at a tree behind him and offered to attack that tree over there. Guy thought, Squire, this child is in serious need of help. The archers fired at the tree and after hitting it, the monster rats crawled out. Sangsu asked him to entrust it to him, and after these words, he quickly headed towards the tree. The guy said he was faster than he thought. Sangsu tightened his grip on his sword, made his trademark swing and told the monster, just to let him know that he should be honored to meet him, after which he made several movements with his sword and was dumbfounded. The monster attacked him and he felt a severe pain in his stomach and cried out in pain. The monster attacked him again. Compared to this one, Squeaker is an angel. Sangsu's face was scratched by the monster's claws as he thought about how strong this monster was. After the monster attacked Sangsu, it landed and looked at the remaining players. The Sangsu sword was stuck in the ground. Here lies a guy with 8th grader syndrome. At this time, another sword was stuck in the ground and Daejong grabbed it and wondered why there are so many of them. Squeaker squeaked his approval. Standing behind him was a mage girl who called out to the raid leader. He turned around and felt a familiar feeling. He remembered Yu Gyong, who called out to him. The magician shouted that this was the last skill, after which she waved her staff and made several movements, creating purple flames around her. Daejong remembered Yu Gyong doing the same once. He shifted his gaze to the monster and the girl's magic began to restrain the monster. He smiled and thought that somehow he got the feeling that he was playing with Yu Gyong. Besides, this girl looks like a perfect match with him, just like Yu Gyong. He remembers talking to her, asking her to join the guild. They were sitting at a table in some establishment and drinking drinks. He said that she was the only one he could trust to run the guild. While they were sitting in such a cozy environment, she looked at her drink and replied that she did not want to be in the guild. She brushed a drop of water from her glass and said that she hated it when there were a lot of people. He handed her a napkin and said that was why he suggested she try it first. It's just a game anyway, and besides, the guild members will definitely like it. He said that for him the guild is like a family, but does it make sense without it? She took it hesitantly and said she understood. She dabbed her wet fingers with a napkin and in exchange asked him not to leave her alone. Now Daejong is standing and watching as the magician gives Squeaker magic stones, and wondered why he keeps thinking about Yu Gyong. The sky was already filled with the bright colors of the sunset, and Daejong said that he had to return. Daejong, Squeaker, and the mage were walking down a long corridor. Daejong noticed Squeaker hugging a girl and said that this is the first time he sees him hugging someone other than him. She replied that he likes being a pet and is very smart, and his magic is good too. She said that he was eating the magic stone and asked if she could give him more. Daejong replied that she should do as she pleases. He thought about how she likes animals. She only talks about Squeaker. The girl asked where he found it, to which he replied that it seems that it was not far from the kingdom of Arthur. It seems that he is the boss of the Rat Cave dungeon. She asked, puzzled. Boss? Does he say he tamed the boss? Daejong confirmed her words. She stopped and asked him, does he use joint attacks with the former monster? Daejong replied that he did this for the first time, and thought that it would not work. He started to open the door, and said that it even sounds like something impossible. Daejong looked into the room in surprise, but suddenly he noticed something was wrong behind him. The magician blocked his path with her sword and said that she did not expect this, but it was him, the traitor. Squeaker, upon hearing these words, jumped up and opened his mouth in fright. He wanted to run away, but the magician grabbed him and told Daejong that they needed to talk. She bandaged Daejong's arms and body with her magic, but Squeaker started biting her arm, after which he fell to the ground with a squeak. Daejong laughed and asked if she thought he was a traitor. "This is ridiculous." She led him into the room and the doors closed. At that time, Takwon was in a cave fighting a monster. He drew his sword from its scabbard and attacked the monster and cut off its tail. They had a fierce struggle. Blood was shed. Takwon took off and jumped towards the enemy. The monster growled, and Takwon's eyes lit up. He attacked the monster and cut it into pieces. He landed on the ground and his attack cracked the ground. The system reported an increase in the level. He looked up at the system window, which said that he reached level 35 for the first time. The system window asks if he wants to update his rating. Takwon refused. He thought that it was just level 35. Why would he care about the ranking? It wasn't enough to take the place of the raid leader or allay Yugyong's fears. He remembered how she was going from side to side and worried. She looked at the map and said that this is a problem. The guild quest has begun. They should be the first guild to complete this quest. Charon asked how. They lost their guild name and raid leader. Yugyong said that she was sure that during the quest you can make a big name for yourself again, but the lack of a raid leader cannot be fixed. Charon asked, "But if there is no Daejong, then Takwon will be the next best, right?" As he sits on a rock sharpening his blades, he thinks about how it took Yugyong a year to bond with the guild and bond with the rest of the members. Everyone is just waiting for the raid leader. Until Daejong returns, he must also change like Yugyong and the new guild. He must change a lot so that no one else can catch up with him. Sometime later, one of the knights said that the repair work is finished. Now that the task of repairing the walls is completed, it's time to return to the raid leader. The magician girl looked into the tent and the swordsmen were surprised at her appearance. She went inside and said that they needed to go back, to which one of the knights replied that they were just about to do it. He broke off when she showed them a piece of paper that had a picture of Daejong on it. She said that the raid leader was supposedly a traitor to the kingdom, but luckily no links were found between him and the two of them. They saw her badge and realized that this was a secret search party. She asked them to follow her to the Corps of Knights. The commander of the Polar Bear Knights has arrived. At this time, the commander of the Knights greeted Daejong and introduced himself. In front of him sat a bound Daejong, who said that he was quite polite. Squeaker was hiding behind the chair Daejong was sitting on. The knight commander laughed out loud and said that he had strong nerves, just like a traitor. Daejong had nothing to say to that and just sighed. The system window reports that the mission information has been updated. We need to find the traitor hiding in the border village. The Polar Bear Knights have declared the raid leader as a traitor. The knight commander arrived at the border village to confirm that he was a traitor. Daejong needs to prove his innocence to the commander of the knights. The item Royal Decree became his property. Daejong lazily said that he didn't want it that much. The system window disappeared and he chuckled bitterly. While Squeaker was trying to break the magic chains, Daejong asked what convinced him that he was a traitor. The commander saw Squeaker and asked if he tamed the dungeon boss Ratcave. The commander said that he must have heard these stories, the legends of the kingdom, the legend of King Arthur who founded the state and named it after himself. He asked, "Can I not explain further?" In the history of the kingdom, there was only one person who tamed the boss. It was King Arthur. But was he able to tame the monster too? Even if it's just a rumor, it's disrespectful to say that now that he's seen it all with his own eyes, what proof of infidelity is needed? After these words, he took out a sword, threatened Daejong with it, and asked again if he needed another reason. Daejong sighed and asked if he was jealous. He is called a traitor for such a pathetic reason. If he is jealous, why can't he say so directly? The commander brought the sword even closer and angrily said that he was crazy. After these words, Daejong saw the commander's sword quickly approach him and pierce his chest. Daejong began to scream in pain. Daejong's health almost dropped to the bare minimum. The commander of the knights gave him his hard look. Daejong realized that he was dangerous, much more dangerous than he thought. He thought it looked like he was more than just a squad leader. The commander of the knights again inflicted a serious injury on Daejong. A system window appeared in front of him, which informed him that Daejong had received serious damage. Additional stimulation could cause dysfunction in his body. Daejong thought that at this rate, he would die. Seeing what was happening, Squeaker rushed to Daejong's defense and spewed out flames to attack the commander. The commander said that this is what he calls loyalty. For a traitor, he definitely has a charm. Squeaker squeaked and wanted to strike, but suddenly he fell down. The commander believes that the magic stone, which he was fed by a magician girl named Hein, is starting to work. He drew a sword from Daejong, approached Squeaker. He extended his hand to him and said that now he will become his new master. Daejong thought that now he should stop the Knight Commander. He didn't think he would have to use it. He took the runestone and summoned Guy Lime. Guy Lime appeared above the commander and Daejong ordered him to break everything. Guy Lime swung his weapon and attacked the commander. The magic dissipated and Daejong was able to move again. He reached into his bag with his hand and told the commander that he could forgive bullying him, but how dare he bully his kid? He took out a glowing orb from his pocket. The system window said 5 uses left. He used the item and the number of uses changed. An item appears in front of Daejong, the zookeeper's belt. The system window reports that this item has 4 uses left. At this time, Charon, Dagyong, Yugyong, and Flicker find themselves in the palace. Charon is surprised by the huge yard and asks, "Is there no one here?" Dagyong assumes that they are here first. Yugyong angrily asks why hasn't Takwon come yet. A palace guard approached them and asked if they were here to get a guild quest. Yujong confirmed his words and asked how many participants can register. The guard replies that 5 people can register. To apply, you need to write the name of the guild and representatives. To avoid any problems, representatives must apply in person. The system window announces the guild quest. The Kingdom of Arthur is looking for outstanding warriors. A tournament will be held to find the future knights of the kingdom. Every Astrom user can take part in it. All candidates will receive kingdom merit points after accepting the major challenge. It is necessary to select 5 representatives from the guild to prepare for the upcoming martial arts tournament. The order does not matter, but participants must apply in person. Yugong repeated, should they apply in person? Since Takwon wasn't there, she became very worried, because the most important person still hadn't come. At this time, Daejong fights against the commander along with Squeaker and Gilime. He says that he tried to solve everything with his quick wits, after which he touched Gilime with his hand, and Gilime's muscle battery skill activated. Daejong grabbed his fire sword and said that they would talk after he put the commander on the ground. The system window said that he could charge his muscles are like batteries. His strength and physical skills will be increased for a while. He pointed his sword at the commander and yelled to end this at once. The commander said he wanted to know one thing. Could he answer his question? Daejong asked why he should do this. Why did he suddenly become interested in a traitor? The commander said that if he did not want to answer, then let him at least listen to his story first. He healed himself and asked if he had ever been betrayed by someone he trusted the most, the one he trusted more than anyone else. Daejong noticed his ability and thought, does the NPC have the ability to regenerate? Or maybe it's black magic? The commander looked at his palm and said that his life was full of betrayals. Every time he was just healed in this way, but recently even his subordinate who swore allegiance threatened him just like him. The commander clenched his hand into a fist and rushed to the attack. Daejong had a sword in his hand and he asked who did he call underlings. From now on he will obey him. Daejong swung his fire sword and activated strengthened skill, muscle strike, the swordsman's basic skill. Power strike has been enhanced with muscle recharge. The commander said that there was some kind of force in it. Their swords began to crack from these attacks. They need to continue. The commander asked how Daejong thinks he did to them. Daejong clenched his hand into a fist and swung to strike, activating the Gilime-linked skill, Muscle Punch. Gather all the energy from muscle recharge and release it in one punch. During this battle, the commander said that he had sacrificed them, to which Daejong replied that no one asked this freak. He starts punching the commander all over his body with fiery fists, causing him to fall to the ground. Daejong yells that he should be running away, not running his mouth, stupid. Daejong has leveled up many times over. This took longer than he expected, and he yelled at the squeakers that it was time for them to leave. The commander asked if he was not interested in what they were victims for. Black smoke was coming from him, and he said that a new power would appear soon. At that moment, the doors open and the knights and mage rush in. They shout, "Raid leader!" The magician saw what was happening and took out her weapon, after which Daejong shouted to the soldiers to suppress the magician. The knights shouted to him that he would not pass and blocked the way. What a mess. The commander turned into a huge sinister monster, who said that the putrefactive stench had penetrated here too. Meanwhile, Takwon stood in front of the robed people. One of them said that he had heard that he was silent, but he did not expect him to be just like a Buddha stone. Takwon remained silent, and the man in the robe said that there was nothing funny about such a kidnapping. He used his power and a magic rune appeared underneath him. Tak Wan shifted his weapon around and asked, "Kidnapping?" At the same moment, green chains with blades at the ends flew towards the people, and they stuck into two people. Tak Wan dexterously controlled his weapon, and the guy in the robe charged and shouted that he was a jerk. Tak Wan stopped the chains and jerked them back sharply. The guy in the robe turned around and the chains hit him on the back. From the blow, he dropped to one knee, but the shield on his back did not allow him to suffer. He asked, "Is he going alone against the seven? Is he crazy?" He used his magic and flames crept up to Tak Wan's feet. He managed to jump back in time and asked if they are the ABC Guild from Rue Online. The guy took off his hood and asked how about they team up before the guild quest ends. They cannot lose to a guild that does not have a raid leader. At this time, the commander of the knights turned into a monster and said that there is a mess. This stench has also penetrated here. He threw aside his armor and sword and said that he would give them some useful information. The armor and sword hit the floor with a clang, and the monster said that he was the boss monster from the myth of the founder. The system window said the job was created based on the detection of the guardian deity. King Arthur was the only one on the continent who was able to found a country by taming the boss monster, the guardian deity of the vanished kingdom. He needs to defeat a mysterious guardian who has somehow reappeared. Daejong picked up the armor and said that he didn't know how strong he was back then, but he was sure he was quite strong. He asked if they were sure he would win if he took advantage of it. Should he fight him like a boss? He examined the sword and wondered if that would be too much. He noticed purple flashes behind him and turned around. He saw how the magician girl began to conjure and magic shells hit Guylime. He asked what kind of monsters. The knights attacked her and exclaimed how dare she attack the raid leader. The girl said that now is not the time to fight each other. Daejong said that as far as she could see, the knight commander had turned into this monster. And Guillaume is his subordinate. Who to believe? The decision is hers. Will she choose the monster pretending to be the commander of the knights, or him who was accused of betrayal? The girl was confused and didn't know what to say. Daejong told her to think carefully. Let her not stop him from catching the boss. He grabbed his sword and rushed to attack along with the fiery Squeaker. They approached the monster, and Squeaker began to attack it with fiery projectiles. The monster repelled the attack and said that they seemed to be still close. Smoke began to come from his paw, and he asked how long he thought it would last. Daejong started attacking him, and the monster said that if he survived his attack, he would tell him his story. He swung his claws, and at that moment Daejong grabbed the Squeaker and dodged the monster's blow. Daejong yelled that he already said he didn't care at all. Squeaker squeaked and warned him that he was starting to burn. Daejong said it's okay, he can't stop the flames. He thought it was dangerous, one hit and he would be dead. The monster attacked again and said that Arthur never tamed it. Daejong pushed Squeaker forward and the raid leader's fusion skill with Squeaker activated. Squeaker unleashed a powerful stream of flames, flamethrower skill, absorbs the aura of the raid leader and releases incredibly hot flames. This can block melee attacks. The power of the monster and the stream of flame touched and began to resist each other. After a few seconds, everything was quiet. Daejong took Squeaker in his arms and said that since he was still talking, he would ask him a question. Does he mean to say that he was slandered or something like that? The monster asked if he was finally interested in him. He confirmed his words and said that at first they were bound by a contract. As a condition of helping people in war, he accepted the price of human sacrifice. Daejong said he thought he didn't keep his promise and asked if he was still angry about it. The monster said it wasn't. Having tasted blood, he could not stop the war. Humanity is dying like flies. Why do they need a victim? Arthur wanted peace and said that he would sacrifice himself to end the bloodshed, which is why he took possession of his body. More precisely, Arthur himself took the body of the monster. The knights and the mage were greatly surprised. Arthur looked at his paw and said that they probably guessed what happened next. The monster, unlike him, who was weak and old, continued to conquer and fight. He wants to destroy this kingdom that has grown up on the blood-soaked land. The bloodline of this cursed kingdom will be destroyed by his own hands. He wounded his paw with a claw and said that he wanted to repeat what he had previously said to his proud knights. Who to believe? The decision is his. He asked if he would become a traitor and help him, or would he protect the interests of the kingdom? The system reported that the royal event was activated. The scenario of the next task depends on the choice made. King Arthur, who lived his life in injustice, gathers all his strength in order to overthrow the power in the kingdom. Will he help this man to accomplish his revenge? The rewards and difficulty of the quest cannot be estimated. Daejong said he almost forgot and asked if he could ask one more question. Was he really betrayed? Arthur did not answer. Daejong grabbed his paw and said that he was the one who started the war, and also he was the one who survived. He remembered his words that he made a sacrifice and said that it was he who sacrificed and still sacrifices human lives. Arthur yanked his paw out of his hand and said it was funny. He looked down at his wound and said that opportunities like this don't come along very often. His wound healed, and Daejong said that the wound was deep, so he did everything slowly. He drank the potion and said that Arthur was the first to propose and asked why he keeps resisting. He took out his sword and repeated once more that he was a subordinate. He used a special wizard skill, double charge, which allows you to use two skills at the same time. He walked towards Arthur and used the raid leader's exclusive skill, a bullet lunge that delivers a stabbing blow enhanced by fire and frost auras. Arthur also prepared to attack and struck. Their powers collided and Arthur was surprised, because the aura enveloping the Daejong weapon increased the damage on impact. Arthur was knocked back from a strong blow, and the magician girl was surprised. Did he use a double charge? Meanwhile, Sung-soo stands in the middle of an arena filled with spectators. He clenched his hand into a fist and thought it was incredible. The tournament organizers announced that if the opponent did not arrive on time, Sung-soo would be automatically declared the winner of the final qualifier for the royal tournament. He straightened his hair, chuckled, and said that apparently his opponent had shit in his pants and fled. He abruptly stopped his hand and thought that he almost ruined his hair. He shouted that apart from the raid leader, he is the best here. No wonder he was so scared. Yujong sighed tiredly and nervously and said that this idiot is even here talking about the commander. Charon laughed and said that he was really funny and asked if he took the name of their guild, right? Yujong confirmed her words and asked, but why is she the only one who is embarrassed here? Flicker got up abruptly and yelled that he was a jerk. How dare such a scum talk about their leader? Just let him get to him and he will finish him off. She thought that there was another fan of the commander. It looks like he's having a hard time. The spectators were surprised and looked at a man in a robe and with a staff in his hands, who was approaching the center of the arena. He tapped his staff and an image of the king appeared. One of the spectators admiringly said that this is the king. The king said that he welcomed all the guests and inhabitants of the kingdom of Arthur. Relatively recently, their country has become the victim of a series of unpleasant incidents, and therefore, to strengthen the position of the royal family, he wants to hire a squad of brave knights. The members of the guild that will be the last one to win the tournament will receive the title of commanders and their army. In addition, they will be given their own territory. He began to disappear and wished everyone good luck. The audience roared with delight. At this time, Daejong was fighting a monster. From the blow, Arthur whimpered in pain, and Daejong said that by his stamina you couldn't tell that he was the boss. He used the aura shift skill, which quickly moves the aura actively. He attacked him and said, what does that mean? He really is not one. This is his last warning. From a strong blow, Arthur was thrown back for some distance. Daejong pointed his sword in his direction and plunged right next to Arthur's head. He pressed the blade to his throat and they looked into each other's eyes. Daejong said that he would become his subordinate. After a short pause, Arthur asked if he wished him to relinquish his power. Exactly how it happened 100 years ago, Daejong confirmed his words, and said that then he would be able to avenge him, but with his own method. Arthur pushed the sharp blade away from his throat and gripped it tighter. He gripped the blade with such force that he hurt his paw and asked what he wanted from him. Daejong replied that he needed loyalty and honesty. After a short pause, Arthur said that it was easy, it was acceptable. Daejong removed the sword from his throat and placed it on his hand. He cut his hand and said it was the right decision. They shook bloodied hands and Daejong told him that from now on, let him be obedient. The system window reported that there was a situation where the selection options are not available. The kingdom events have been updated. He needs to take a blood oath to King Arthur. In retaliation for becoming the boss monster, he must destroy Arthur's kingdom. This mission cannot be abandoned. Daejong said they will discuss the details later. He looked at the magician and said that there was something else that he had yet to deal with. The girl was very surprised and thought, what did she just see? Daejong approached her and said that he would not repeat it to her either. He put the sword on her shoulder and asked if she would follow him, the master of the true king, or would she be betrayed by the monster bloodline? She dropped her sword and grabbed the bear badge and ripped it off her chest and threw it aside. She asked, did she think there was no point in divulging the answer? The badge hit the floor with a clang and steps were heard in the direction of this. He picked up the badge and said he liked its simplicity. Let her keep it. It will be needed in the future. She asked, what about his wounds? He sheathed his sword and replied that everything was in order. He thought that he could die. He needs to become stronger. become even stronger and bring chaos. Meanwhile, in the final round, Flicker thought of Sung Soo. It's obvious that he's a real otaku. He stopped and sped forward. He attacked and thought he wouldn't let a guy like that defile the leader's name. He looked at his rival and thought he was finished. The man almost went off the edge of the arena and thought he was strong. Flicker approached him and looked him straight in the eyes. He hit him on the forehead and the man fell over the edge of the arena. Flicker bowed to him and said he appreciated his diligence. His name is Go Heiken. He is the National Youth Champion. He is the number 5 of the former Endgame Boss Guild. Meanwhile, Daejang was standing in the middle of the room and Squeaker looked at him questioningly and squeaked, "What is he doing?" The system window said that he had defeated a rare monster. The quest is completed. The reward will be credited soon. The new title for defeating the historical monster will soon be recreated. Its reputation has increased by 1,000 points. A chest with a reward appeared in front of him, and he said that it was even a little disappointing. The quests are more difficult and he's making good progress, but he's only getting 1 reward? He opened the chest and saw an A-grade space rune there. It has 3 skills. The jump skill is able to instantly cover a short distance. The teleport skill gives the ability to instantly move to a long distance in which this runestone is located. The subspace passive skill grants the ability to use space magic to create basic stats. Daejang said he was lucky. He noticed that there are several more items. The Blade of the Knights of the Polar Bears has an offensive power of 150 units, physical and magical attack, 110%, durability 300 out of 300 units. This sword adds 33 points to strength, agility, and critical damage. The commander of the Polar Bear Knights used this sword for a long time. It has been preserved in excellent condition. The sword is imbued with magical energy, and its abilities are sealed. The next item is the Polar Bear Knight Armor, which has 450 defensive power, 120% physical attack, and 100% magic attack. Durability 450 out of 450 units. This armor adds 2,200 points to health and magic attack, adds 44 points to magic resistance, and adds 22 points to fortitude. This armor can only be worn by a knight. It creates a protective aura around the commander of the Polar Bear Knights. A full set of armor was given to him when he became commander. The armor is imbued with magical energy and its abilities are sealed. Daejang thought these items had pretty good stats since the previous owner was a knight commander. Either way, he's glad the items are filled with magic. He turned towards Arthur and thought that this guy ate the previous commander, but became obedient after he gave him the item. Squeaker yelled at Arthur and Daejang took notice. So that's how it is? The system window reported that the current number of creatures had reached 3. The conditions were met, the caretaker's pocket was upgraded to Fina's belt. The system window said that Fina's belt has a rank of C. This item was obtained by completing the quest. This item adds 150 points to defense, 27 points to intelligence, 18 points to resistance. This is the last item of the summoning creature in the Kingdom of Arthur. The creature will become submissive immediately after putting on this belt. After all characteristics, health, and magical energy of the owner's creature will be restored. When the number of creatures increases to 5, the item will be upgraded. Daejang was surprised by so many useful items, and thought that now that all of his items are sorted, should they go back to their pending cases? Meanwhile, at the tournament, Sung Soo fought a mage. Sung Soo said that he should be honored to face him in the second round. The magician dodged the blow and said that it was so pitiful, it seemed to him that they were similar, but he still had to learn and learn. Sung Soo said he's the only one pathetic here. The magician repelled his blow and said that the magician who would have substituted himself for such a slow blow does not exist. He hit him and blood came out of his nose. The magician said he knew it would turn out like this. Whether it be skills or perversity, if he tries to keep up with him, then he is away for another 30 years. Sung Soo brandished his sword and said that he was already fed up with his provocations. He will get what he deserves. Saying these words, he threw his sword at him. The magician quickly reacted and dodged, but Sung Soo had already bared his stomach and charged. He hit the magician with his stomach, and from the blow he flew off several meters. Sung Soo took off and said it's not over yet. He did somersaults and used his exclusive skill, tearing the internal organs under terrible pressure, a technique of jumping on the opponent from above, and then suppressing with his own weight. The magician wanted to say something, and Sung Soo asked if he had already admitted defeat. He attacked him and said that the only one he could lose to was the raid leader. At this time, Daejang ordered his subordinates to stand in 2 columns. He called the monster Kola, the magician girl, Hein. He said Kola sounded good, but Hein didn't fit. He opened the stat window and asked why her level had increased. She sheepishly replied that it was her original ability. Since she had to hide as an ordinary soldier, her magic changed. Daejong asked in surprise, "Is this possible?" So he can make good use of it. He put his hand on her shoulder and said that in that case her name would be Genie. Squeaker laughed and the system window said that the conditions were met. Now he can organize subordinate creatures. To do this, he needs to go to the appropriate window. Does he want to start learning? Daejang agreed and thought he should give it a try. He found himself in an empty space and asked if he was here again. The system window reported that he had entered subordinate creature organization mode. At the moment, only creatures and classes are represented. He can set 2 classes. The system reported the arrangement of creatures. Daejong looked at it and said it looks like a real strategy sim. He pointed to Squeaker and wondered what name he should give this class. An idea came to his mind, and he chose Private First Class for Squeaker. He laughed and said, "If he has a class, then only the military PFC for Squeaker." He burst into laughter and set the rest of the private class. He divided them into 2 groups, said that now it is more like a squad. The system window said that the placement of the creatures is completed. The highest class will automatically be determined by the leader of the group. Subordinate creature organization training completed. He returned from empty space and the system announced the task: protecting the borders of the Kingdom of Arthur. He did not complete the second point of the mission. Daejong told the knights and Genie that they can advance to the kingdom first. Tarzan exclaimed that their task was to defend the border. Daejong replied that he would stay behind and take care of it, and let them go and report the traitor. He said they could just say that he was the traitor. He took out a runestone and said that later they would need to tell him everything that happened there. He would take care of the rest himself. He asked if they understood everything. They agreed, and Daejong asked Gilim and Kola to take care of the monsters near the fortress wall. Kola asked what he was up to. It seems to him too hasty a decision. Daejong called out to Squeaker and angrily asked, did he not raise him? Does he dare to call himself a private first class after that? Squeaker saluted him and ran towards Kola. He hit him and started cursing. Daejong said they were his subordinates. Let them just do as he says. Everything has already been thought out. They just have to fulfill their tasks, and it will be the finishing touch. Meanwhile, the third round began. Sungsu defeated another opponent. Heiken also continued to win. Round 4 began. They both continued to win. Round 5 started. Sungsu defeated the opponent and fixed his hair. Heiken won again and smirked. Began the final round. Sungsu stood in front of another opponent's. They looked at each other and Sungsu said that he was very sorry for him because the enemy of his idol is his enemy. May he accept it with honor. The man asked if they hadn't seen each other before. At a glance, it is clear that he is an ordinary crypto scammer. How dare he talk to adults like that? Sungsu's face twisted in disgust, and he said he was a vile ignoramus. He moved quickly and told him to see his superiority. He extended his hand forward and a large blue hand flew towards the man. It was a Sungsu exclusive skill that hits the target with a huge palm and immobilizes them for 30 seconds. A large hand approached the man, but at the last moment he grinned and erected a stone barrier in front of him. Sungsu said that he should defend himself like a guild number 2. He attacked and said that such protection is not enough. Sungsu's blow took half of the man's health, and he thought, why such a strong damage? Sungsu swung his hand and said that apparently he still did not understand this. He attacked him and said that it was because he was terribly cool. At this time, Sungsu's victory was shown on the screen in the observation room. Yuzhong angrily said that first they locked Takwon in prison, and now they are going to send him to war. They knew he couldn't use chat or any skill, which means they did it on purpose. She leaned back in her chair and said that his victory over the ABC Guild was quite beautiful. She sighed and asked if she should be happy about it or not. Dagyong said that this Sungsu is pretty good. It may seem like he got lucky in the finals, but the ABC Guild is going through a difficult situation right now. She turned to Yuzhong and said that he has talent. She looked at her and Yuzhong said that he managed to defeat the ABC Guildmaster, but she was not sure about his ability. She started biting her nail and said that he was one thing, but she was more annoyed by the fact that Takwon was locked up in a dungeon, and because of this, her plans to use the strongest member in the final round failed with a crash. Dagyong looked at her and a message appeared in front of them from Takwon saying that he would deal with the ABC Guild. The second battle of the final round began. Heiken bowed to the girl and wished her good luck. She admiringly said that it was Mr. Flicker. After watching his string of victories, she became his fan. She is honored to meet him. He looks even cooler up close. He smiled awkwardly and thanked her. The admiring smile on her face was replaced by an unkind smirk, and she said that, nevertheless, the game is a game. She coated the blade with poison and said that she would not be lenient with him. He thought it was such a relief. He held his sword out before him and thought he almost said he would fight with honor. His sword sparkled, and he thought that if she played giveaway, she would lose too quickly. For critical damage, he will aim for the neck. This is quite possible. The girl rushed to the attack, and Heiken thought that he needed a moment when she stopped using the skill. The girl ran towards him, but suddenly began to slow down. Heiken noticed this and attacked. He made his move. The impact sent the girl flying away. Heiken's exclusive skill is a flickering shot that pierces with the power and precision of a firearm. It deals damage to the opponent's weak points. After using the skill, a cooldown is required. He defeated the girl with one blow and applause was heard. He smiled smugly and thought it was a good hit. He turned around to see the reaction of the organizers, but saw a purple flash. Daejong's subordinates came out of the portal. They were very serious. Heiken's ears turned red and he thought that he had an important process here. Meanwhile, at IG Soft, Jo Yeonbi was typing furiously on the keyboard. He said things would get worse at this rate. Something is obviously wrong. In this situation, if he dies in the game, then he risks dying in real life. Data related to the raid leader is not yet available. He's not sure, but it's possible he's using an electrical stimulation system that's only been tested as a last resort. There are no problems with other players, but with the raid leader, everything is more difficult. He printed out the documents and thought that it was risky to turn off the electrical stimulation system because you could die while in the game. So the only exhalation is later in the president's office. Jo Yeonbi gave him the documents and waited for him to read it. He said that's why they should make an announcement that the raid leader is alive. After a short pause, the president looked at him and said that then he had one proposal. He threw the documents on the table and said that he was offering him a 3-fold salary increase. Let him get the maintenance staff of the raid leader and form a team to find the bug, and he'll triple his salary until this incident gets out. Jo Yeonbi asked why they should be from the maintenance team. The president replied that by creating a separate team for the raid leader of only 4 people, this should minimize the possibility of a leak if a problem was later discovered. He dialed the HR team number and asked, so what was he going to do some time ago? Daejong stands in the middle of the library and says that there is nothing special about this building. It looks like this place has been abandoned for a long time. He took a book from the shelf and wondered, but why is there no dust at all? He wondered if it was possible that someone was thinking the same things as him. He opened the book and thought, maybe there is something here. It must be so because the mission is especially strange this time, even after the mission to protect the borders. He thought it was the end of the traitor's mission, but he was recognized as a fake knight commander by the boss of the mobs, as well as the fact that he is the real king of the kingdom, Arthur. Even though he has a soul swap, he is not as strong as normal bosses. He doesn't even have to fight, even if he defeats him. Nothing will change. Squeaker caught on the book and started to fall, but Daejong caught him and thought he couldn't believe that the border defense mission was just to kill time. They must want something from him. He put Squeaker on the shelf and he began to read the book. Daejong looked at him with a smile and said that he would kick his ass if he just sat and read. Squeaker looked at him in fear and squeaked. Daejong thought that Squeaker's stats should increase due to his hobbies like books and magic stones. Although he is frustrated that he cannot see his status window, he hit his palm with his fist and asked, he said he would make him a weapon, didn't he? He called up the system window and said that he would make him a sword first. He uses magic stones, praying mantis blades, and a compression ring. He will make a sword out of the things he collected during the Guylime mission. He wondered if he could combine the 3 magic stones, right? He started to combine items and said it would work somehow. The golden inlays on the floor suddenly lit up and began to sparkle, and the next moment there was an explosion. The room was filled with smoke and dust. Squeaker and Daejong lay on the floor and Daejong said it was a good try, and he apologized to Squeaker. Squeaker shifted his gaze to the sparkling orb in Daejong's hand. An unusual blue sphere sparkled in his hand. At this time, 3 of his subordinates arrived at the tournament. The captain of the guard asked what they were doing here. He looked at them puzzled and Genie put up a magical barrier. The captain of the guard asked if this was a barrier. Tarzan told him that a traitor had appeared in the border village, so they returned first. The captain of the guard asked in surprise, "What? Traitor?" Genie confirmed his words and said that it looks like he made the cracks on the wall. Unregistered monsters were summoned. He also used black magic. The captain of the guard asked, but why did he show up in the border village if the king was in the capital? To Alette replied that to some extent they still don't know. They returned immediately after the walls were repaired. The captain of the guard took out a scroll of teleportation and said that he first needed to report this to the king, and they would go with him. There was a bright flash, and they disappeared. A man in a robe walked to the middle of the arena and said that they had a little hitch, but everything would go according to plan now. The crowd cheered, and the robed man began to introduce the contestants. He pointed to Heiken and said that it was the representative of the final boss guild, Flicker. He pointed to the opposite side of the arena and said that it was the guild master of the endgame boss guild, Sung-soo. He slammed his staff on the floor and said that just like in the previous match, all levels, stats, and item abilities would be set to level 30. He wished them a good match and disappeared. Heichen told Sung-soo that he is someone who has nothing to do with their leader. Ever since he heard that he was using his fame for his own gain, he made sure he never opened his mouth again. He used the electric aura skill, which condenses and releases thunder magic power. Sung-soo chuckled, and said that he seemed to feel the aura of the raid leader emanating from him. Even if he was jealous of him, it was all a foregone conclusion. He used the warm-up skill, which increases attack by stimulating the muscles, and began to rotate his arm rapidly. They attacked each other while using their skills at the same time. Heiken used the Sword of Speed skill, which delivers a quick blow to the opponent. Sung-soo used the Sword of Gravity skill, a quick swing towards the opponent. Their swords clashed, and Heiken thought his sword was heavier than he thought, and faster too. If he made a mistake, he would be pushed back. He attacked him first, but he survived. He jumped back and thought, "It's not that easy. Isn't it too burdensome?" Sung-soo shouted that he would show him his strong side. He used the bulk-up skill, which instantly increases muscle and fat mass, allowing him to gain more explosive strength. He braced himself and said it was just like the raid leader, forged toughness. Let him test his physical strength, called Very Cool Spiral Kick King Emperor God. This Sung-soo exclusive skill allows him to quickly spin in a circle while swinging his sword. This causes great damage to the opponent. Heiken dodged the blow, looked at his sword, and said that he was just a brat who was just copying others. He used the skill on guard, thanks to which an aura surrounds his body, increasing agility and brute strength. He prepared himself and said that the raid leader also has the power of mind. He attacked using the Thunderstrike skill. This is an attack that is fast as lightning, inflicts massive damage to the opponent. Sung-soo's spin produced smoke. They were about to tear each other to shreds. But suddenly a man in a robe appeared and told them to stop fighting. An emergency has occurred. Heiken and Sung-soo looked at him in surprise. The man in the robe knelt down and said that the king had declared the two of them the winners. A system window appeared above them, announcing that the king of the kingdom, Arthur, had been killed by an unknown entity. With this sad news, it is no longer necessary to choose a guild to protect the king. In order to congratulate the representatives of both guilds for working so hard, the captain of the guard who manages the competition invited both guilds to the royal palace. They need to contact the captain of the guard to collect their rewards. Some time ago, Daejong inspected the sphere and thought that the item had been successfully crafted, but what was that explosion? He thought it was definitely magic. Suddenly, Tarzan's voice was heard from the runestone, who announced that something bad had happened. While they are talking, unregistered monsters are attacking the kingdom. Daejong was horrified and thought that this is not what he thinks. Tarzan says that the king looks like he was killed a long time ago, and there is a magic circle next to the throne. The monsters must have been summoned with this magic circle. Daejong whispers something back and realizes that this was it. This item reacted to magic and created a magic circle in the palace. A system window pops up in front of him with a mission. Daejong says he's had this feeling for quite a while now, but he always passes out before it gets him anywhere. The system notifies that after the completion of the mission, the summoners were called. Kola asks, did he send him to work alone? What could he do if the magicians were already activated? Daejong and Squeaker looked at each other. Squeaker ran up to Kola and kicked him in the leg, calling him a jerk. Kola says that these people will go this way. This is the magic circle he guarded. Kola asks that if they come, then he should not be rude. At this time in the building of the guild ABC, the guy says he always stays away from really good raids. After these words, a blade on a chain thrown by Tak Guan hits him. The other guy screams his name and draws his sword, but is immediately stabbed by Tak Guan. Around the corner stood two more people who are surprised by the attack. Tak Guan masterfully defeats two members of the guild, and this is noticed by a man who runs screaming to help his comrades. Tak Guan uses the basic swordsman skill, 3-step cut. This is a quick cut 3 times, almost the same as with a dagger. Tak Wan uses Flicker's special skill chain cut. This skill allows you to combine magical powers with a chainsword. After defeating the man, Tak Wan lands and asks, "Did he say they went on a raid?" At that time. Before Daejang, a system window appears in which it says that the mission was completed successfully. Additional rewards will be issued for completing hidden missions. The status window can be viewed. He can also view the details of summoned creatures and soldiers in the command and control section. Daejang asks to wait. The system window says that in order to start a new mission, he will be moved to a new location. Daejang is pulled into a teleporter and he moves to a new location. Daejang refuses and says they should have at least let him finish his sentence. He now has a summon stone and uses it immediately when his cooldown ends. Daejang sighs and says that this time he will take care of him with an open heart, and asks to open the status window. A system window appeared in front of him, in which it is written that his combat power is 37850, level 72, prestige points 2866. The title of Daejang is the Lord of Historical Monsters. His strength is 130 points, agility 135 points, intelligence 129 points, also physical strength 51 points, endurance 71 points, magic 51 points, learning 52 points, subspace 1. This is the beginning of learning. Statistics increase by accumulating points based on actions. Individual statistics cannot be displayed. The user can determine the distribution of experience points by setting the weights in the base statistics. Moreover, items and runes can gain additional weight. The user can receive hidden statistics depending on their actions. Hidden stats can be created using items and runes. The user's abilities will be automatically analyzed and converted into combat power. Only combat strength will be displayed if another user checks the status window with a skill or discovery task. Daejang, looking at this, says that everything remains the same as in the beta testing phase, and this is very good. Squeaker runs forward a little and gestures to ask why he's not using a sphere. Daejang says he forgot about it when the other guy spoke up. Now they will see if this area is well done. He passes the orb to Squeaker and it shrinks to fit in his hands. The system window says that this item is a raid leader's orb with no class. Attack power is 100 points, increases physical attack by 100%, magic attack by 120% and has no durability, also adds 36 points to intelligence and 3,600 points to magic power. This is a magical tool crafted by the raid leader himself. For the full use of the sphere, special conditions must be met. Squeaker thinks he might lose it if he carries it around. He should be kept in a safe place, which is his cap. He hides the orb under his cap and thinks he's a genius. Daejang notices the huge amount of dust being created by the blue goblins running at them. The system window notifies that he used secret methods to complete a hidden mission, and for this his rewards will be increased. Grade A Resurrection Branch Bundle, 5 consumable item. Can be used to harness strong energy that does not exist in this world to revive the dead. Cannot be used on the same person. The second item is an unknown key with no score. This is a key that responds to a certain magical power. The third item is Grade A Spirit Bottle, which is a rechargeable item with 3 charges that recharge every 3 hours. This bottle will fill up with liquid spiritual energy at regular intervals. It can be used to erase anything. Daejang is about to take the items, but is run over by a mob of goblins who ignore him. Daejang collects items and asks what this time? This irritates him very much. Other goblins run by. Daejang stops the goblins as he puts the items back in his inventory and asks, why is he so annoying? If he has a mission, then he can just give it to him. The goblins looked at him in bewilderment and ran on. Daejang's ears turn red and he asks if he's going to do anything. Then why did he bring it here? He didn't let him finish his coke. 30 minutes later. Squeaker spins on his back while Daejang sits and thinks that getting stuck in the astrum is his biggest problem. 10 minutes later. Squeaker is putting together a house of cards, and Daejang thinks that as a Korean and a player, he should always have a way to get away even in the worst scenarios. After 1 minute. Daejang hopes it's not that he's really doing nothing. In a few moments, Daejang starts laughing out loud and kicks the ground hard and asks that stupid artificial intelligence to stop messing around and just give him a mission already. Some time ago, Tarzan says that the monsters must be summoned through this magic circle. Daejang says that they should tell the guard commander that he is a traitor for now. He will help them get rid of the monsters. Tarzan says he understands and asks the raid leader to be safe. Genie notices that a monster has appeared behind them, which was able to break through the barrier. Tarzan and 2 Elite strike at the monster. Genie says it's black magic and her defensive magic won't work. To Elite and Tarzan say she can leave it up to them and keep calling. Genie says that she understood them and removed the barrier, behind which stood several more monsters. Guys think there are too many of them. From behind their backs, several magical waves swept past, hitting one of the monsters. The man says they should all step back. The guard commander releases several magical waves and asks what they want to tell him. Genie throws off her cape and says that she is a member of the Polar Bear Knights search party. As a result of a secret investigation, they confirmed that the traitor was the commander of the Border Defense Knights. He tamed the monster boss and even integrated his skills. Tuelet and Tarzan wonder if the raid leader will be okay. The commander of the guards says that they should immediately return to the Polar Bear Knights and report the situation. Sometime later to the ABC Guild building, Charon says that Takwon are really scary when they get angry. Dagyong says he destroyed them. Yujong asks where did he go after he trashed everything like that. Charon says that knowing him is only the beginning. Dagyong says things are getting out of control. They need to meet with the ABC Guildmaster and settle things once and for all. Yujong asks if she really thinks they can stop Takwon. She doesn't think they should stop him. Charon asks how they can stop him in a fit of rage, when even the raid leader couldn't do it. Dagyong asks what she means by saying they don't have to stop him. At the same time, a group of players see Takwon. One of the guys does not even have time to say something and gets hit by him. Someone asks where did he come from. Takwon throws both of his swords at the people as he grabs the chain and starts spinning. He jumps and, pulling his sword, strikes at another player. One of the players tells the other that he must shoot him. The player fires the crossbow, but Takwon pulls the sword and the arrow hits their ally. The player with the axe runs towards him and strikes, but Takwon dodges, counterattacks, and the crossbowman hits his ally again. And Takwon throws his sword at him, which hits the target. Yujong says she means they should just show them. The player that Takwon fought rises. Takwon uses the Flicker special skill Chain Hail, which temporarily showers perfectly similar weapons. Yujong says that this is what happens when their guild is contacted. At the same time in the royal palace, the guard commander tells Sungsu and Haichen that they are both young and talented people who have made it to the finals. They have a bright future ahead of them. Sungsu asks, "Isn't such a compliment somewhat embarrassing?" Heiken says that he is still missing something in many aspects. The guard commander says that they had no choice but to stop the battle in the middle due to the incident. It's amazing that they both made it to the finals at such a young age. Heiken says at the same time as Sungsu that if they could finish it, he would definitely win. Sungsu says that if they could finish, the world would revolve around him. The commander of the guard says that it is very good to be young. He will tell them everything quickly, because it looks like this is an emergency. Following the polar bear and the black tiger, the two victorious guilds will become the third knightly order. Perhaps the name Lyrebird would suit them. Ever since the royal palace was attacked, the guard commanders and the black tiger knights will protect it. The knights of the Lyrebird and the knights of the polar bear, whose commanders' whereabouts are still unknown, will be tasked with finding the traitor. Since they don't have much time, they can get more information from the polar bear knights. So what are they both going to do? At the same time, Daejong asks, "Why does 24 hours feel like an eternity?" The system window says that there are 40 minutes left before the rune ability recharges. Daejong says he tried to listen to Kola and even got rid of the goblins, even looked at his subjects. Goblins keep showing up to test his patience. They ruined his fun, just when he was about to get stronger. Daejong turns around and sees that the goblins have something broken. He runs toward them and thinks this is it. Is his quest finally here? No wonder he felt uncomfortable. This building collapsed due to poor construction. Daejong asks if this time his mission will be related to architecture. The system notifies that he has become wanted. The game will be terminated if he dies or is discovered by the Knights of the Arthurian Kingdom or another user. Daejong asks why so suddenly. The system notifies you that errors may occur along the way. It must evacuate until a new mission is generated. Daejong thinks that the mission that never showed up didn't really try to fool him, but does the system really think the knight can kill him? At this time in the office of IG Soft, an announcement about the appointment of personnel is written on a sheet of paper. The Astrom bug team is launched. Yeonbi Zhou, researcher, Homan Cho, AI developer, Dosuk Gong, device quality, Mando Kim, service support. Workers say that all these people are from the domestic elite. They will catch everything. Rumor has it that their salary has increased significantly, but seriously, right in front of the president's office? The box guy thinks he should have spent more time thinking about this. Right in front of the president's office, he should be focusing on the raid leader. The guy notices that the computer says that there was a plot error. The system notifies that he has become wanted. There will be a punishment. The debuff will be applied until this status ends. Agoraphobia debuff. The more enemies he encounters, the lower his stats will be, down to 40%. Finger-pointing debuff. All his fame turned to notoriety. He will be ignored by more prestigious opponents. Daejong says he expected this, but even if it's kind, he notices something else. The system window says that Evil Mind has been obtained since it first exceeded 2,000 infamy points. An Evil Mind maximizes the effectiveness of targets with strong charisma. However, in the case of an unreasonable command, the targets will respond with hostility. Daejong thinks he could put it to good use and says it's actually good. It's time to settle down here, sometime later. Squeaker tells the goblins that they have all just become quite a bit useful. Daejong stands by, looking at the map, and thinks the area isn't as bad as he thought. Squeaker comes up to him and says that the preparations are over. Daejong says it's good and then they can start. He approaches the goblins and asks, "They've always been ignored because they're weak, aren't they?" That's why, even with their weak skills, they tried their best to build their defenses, even though it was eventually destroyed. That is why he will give them a good dungeon as a gift. The goblins rejoice and Squeaker looks at him in amazement. Daejong says they must now bring the materials they need. At this time, players from the endgame boss guild are fighting the monster. The archer says she doesn't care if it was a fluke, but their guildmaster made it to the end. The guy says that they definitely got into a guild that is better than they expected. Now they are all appointed knights of the final boss guild. Jelly. My fave asks if he doesn't know it's because their guildmaster knows how to piss people off. They must not slow down and work hard until all the knights have been called. But why is it so quiet here? Sung-Soo cuts the monster and uses the basic swordsman skill of the gravity sword. This basic sword skill delivers a powerful blow to an opponent using strength and weight. Sung-Soo says no one can stop him. The gentleman must take care of it, and then they can rest. Jelly. My fave thinks bad things happen every time he calls them gentlemen. Sung-Soo tells Sir the territory and points his finger down. The player asks what he means. Sung-Soo says this is his territory since he started hunting here yesterday, so he must leave. The player asks if he is serious. Sung-Soo says he looks like he should teach him some gaming etiquette. Jelly my fave hits him on the head and says he wondered why they were getting reports. This idiot is off again. The guild members kick Sung-Soo while the archer apologizes and says he's still small, he should understand. If someone reports them again, they will be banned for a week. Sometime later, Daejong says it's amazing that it was all put together in just 20 minutes. An evil mind is certainly useful. Squeaker applauds the goblin. Daejong throws a potion at the goblin and says that before the potion wears off, they need to build a house. The angry goblin asks if they still have a job. Daejong says there is, of course. Is he good at disobeying him? The goblins remember that they once ignored him, and one of them says that he is unexpectedly timid. Daejong says he should shut up. They have 30 minutes to finish. The goblin says he doesn't even have a watch, but he acts like he does. Daejong says that they keep pestering him, though they still do what he says. Should he now pick up where he left off? Gilimi and Kola were summoned with a rune. Kola says that he feels very powerful magic. Daejong says that's why he called him. He should hurry up and tell him about it. Kola says that about it, it's his magic. Daejong asks what's wrong with him. Has he started to lose the ability to speak a little since he left? He does not understand. Did they put a curse on him? This explains why he was relatively weaker for a special boss. He remembers that he just received a bottle and sprays Kola with liquid from the bottle. Kola shrunk in size and a shimmering rune lay next to it. Daejong asks what's wrong with this. Is this some kind of malfunction? Someone has lifted the curse on the Kingdom of Arthur. The magic that was connected to the Kingdom of Arthur has disappeared. The certain someone who placed the curse is furious. Kola's attribute has been changed to Borderline. Borderline is a special attribute that possesses both monster and NPC attributes, but the affected character is considered to be neither. Daejong knew it. He should have given it to Kola from the start, so just like the mission with Squeaker, he must make the right decisions. Kola started dusting himself off and asked if Daejong is really clueless. Since Kola couldn't remove the curse, now Daejong thinks he's irresponsible, right? Everyone was touched by him. Daejong knows what he wants to say. He had told him that he wanted loyalty and truth. Kola lost his body and strength. Of course he was furious. Then he appeared before him, as if he already knew everything and bestowed upon him a mighty power. This is how he planned his revenge, which he had dreamed of for so long. But he could not even imagine that there was responsibility for such power. Before Daejong found the magic circle, those guys were heading for this continent. Daejong saw a huge shadow behind him who asked, "So he was here all this time?" The system notifies that Daejong was the target of someone who was spreading black magic throughout the kingdom.